Hey you geeks! Oh, Elantris. So much greatness, and yet so much unmet potential. Elantris' conflict comes from the forces of community and care against the forces of isolation and brutality. This dichotomy is not a simple good v evil, as our ultimate villain seeks community through brutality. This is bad. Rather, Elantris gives us two beautiful examples of what good communities look like: the family and the parish. The family. Kian's family is at the heart of the Kai storyline. It is the complete foil of Raoden's. While Raoden's stepmother barely acknowledges him, Kian claims Lukel and Adian as his own. When Raoden is taken by the Sheod, Iadon is only too happy to kick him out and orders his guards to exterminate Elantrians. He doesn't even use the eclipse to sacrifice a maiden for his son's behalf. Not that this would be a healthy sign of affection, but this is Iadon. Even unhealthy affection would be an improvement.
Nothing I can do, a total eclipse of the heart.
Meanwhile, Kian keeps Adian at home and goes so far as to live for 5 years without servants to keep his secret. While Kian's culinary prowess is often a source of amusement to his peers, I cannot stress how important it is for those in power to be well fed. In 2011, The Economist reported a study that showed how parole boards were more likely to fine for the defendant if they had just eaten lunch. Sanderson can wax philosophical on the nature of kings, but for the living, a good ruler always needs a good chef. Sanderson's annotations are filled with notes about how he is worried that Kian's family was too modern. I disagree. Thomas More educated his daughters in classics and archery at a time when King Henry VIII was killing women who couldn't bear him sons. Meanwhile, Lukel provides levity for his scenes. Although not pure comic relief, the fact that he can stride around town knowing his best friend is dead, his brother's an Elantrian, his stepfather's a pirate, his cousin is crazy, and still crack jokes is incredible. He really doesn't get enough credit for that. We never find out how the gang, especially Lukel, responded to Raoden coming back from the dead. They only talk once as friends, and that's after Elantris is revived. We don't even know if they knew he was an Elantrian before the coronation. I mean, they see him do magic, and they're not stupid, but since Raoden asks Serene, how do you think these men would react if they discovered they'd been sitting with an Elantrian just pages before his reveal? This reader wants to know in painful detail. Not that this would have to be too painful. At the end of chapter 53, Eondel hails Raoden as his king, which is the perfect moment for Raoden to tell them that he is an Elantrian, and they need only respond,
"We know. Sit down."
Then Kian offers him something to eat. Boom! I'm happy with that. However, this is the smaller of my two beefs. The parish. I'm using the Catholic Christian term for the localized community of the faithful. Though, for this video's purpose, it could be a temple, mosque, synagogue, shrine, etc. New Elantris is founded in a Karathi chapel, where the lost can wander in and be welcomed. While the characters aren't seen using it as a house of prayer, it is still significant. Parishes are, ideally, intentional communities that build each other up in faith. This is not just a 1 hour a week thing, but constant. Which brings me to the other unbelievable part. New Elantris running itself. Because in the real world, no parish practically runs itself. There are whole books and musicals about why that is not true.
And we all live in simple peace and harmony. really 12 years old.
It was 6.
Though I suppose if no one needs to eat, die, give birth, or get married, preferably not in that order, but it's fantasy.
Death cannot stop true love. All it can do is delay it for a while.
Then the fuel of parochial drama would be diminished. The core of Raoden's community is the simple rule that people should spend their days doing the various tasks necessary to make their community flourish. Raoden leads and learns, Karata manages, Galadon farms, Seolin guards, Marishi crafts, Taeon sculpts, Kehar cleans, and Mary sews, etc. But laying in sludge, waiting for food handouts, is discouraged. Serene muses at the irony of those who are best at living Karathi principles are those considered damned. And this is all Sanderson has to say about that. I want more. The lesson. When Elantris' power is restored, we are told that the nobility's role is twisted into a class of food distributors, which is an improvement from tyranny. But would that prevent the societal problems of pre-Riod Erelon from taking root again? The Elantrians were worshipped and despised as gods, while the Arleans felt that they were bound to live in the mire of the mundane world. Hence the bloody revolution when their so-called gods failed. Raoden should know better. The story of Galadon's father not being allowed to farm, Sheor's men coming to worship Raoden because he magically gave them food, and of course, Raoden knew Elantrians can err, and to err is human. The ending Sanderson gives us does not address any of these problems. Not that everything needs to be perfect, it shouldn't be, but we should see how the journey to restoring Elantris will shape the journey to restore Erelon. As family and parochial life were key in the first journey, they should also influence the next. To fix this, I'm going to take a leaf out of Nando V. Movies' book and propose a new scene for the end of Elantris. This would go in place of Raoden spacing out at his own wedding, which, as far as scenes go, is not that dynamic. So, let's place it at Raoden and Serene's wedding feast, where we get to see the Kai nobles and Elantrians awkwardly mingling. Lukel would ask Raoden how he got rare Jadorian spices at the wedding, and Raoden would respond that he made them. Lukel then jokes about Elantris putting the merchants out of business again. Serene chimes in that due to the incompetence of the old regime and Wyrn's new sanctions, Erelon is now dependent on Elantris as a food source until the next harvest comes in, much as Riod Elantris was dependent on her. Then Kiine or Galadon, pick your skeptic, asks if the people will plant for a new harvest. They didn't like being forced to farm before. Why should they now when Elantris is restored? Raoden answers in his kingly manner that he won't force Ereleans to farm, but will encourage them. He thinks if they meet an Elantrian farmer, they'll be inspired. Galadon does not like this idea. Raoden reiterates that a war with Wyrn is on the horizon. Insert story about bone fragment here. Lukel responds to this unsettling story by cracking a joke about Elantrian divinity. Galadon objects that Elantrians are not gods. The conversation is interrupted by Kais, of all people, complaining that she is not hungry. Her lack of hunger makes sense since she had a huge crutch on Raoden and the trauma of almost being massacred, seeing Raoden's deification, and subsequent marriage would be hard on a 10-year-old. Raoden sees an opportunity to twist the rules and offers her a deal. If she eats her dinner, he'll teach her Elantrian magic. Opening up Elantris' secret to some non-Elantrians is crucial for Erelon to have a healthy balance of power. It also makes the most sense to open this to K-Ice, as Sanderson has mentioned that he would use her, Daorn, and Adian as leads in the sequel. I can certainly see K-Ice having no problem using her knowledge of Aeon Dor to correct Adian's use of it. That's what little sisters are for, after all. Then it can go back to Serene telling Raoden about how much she's looking forward to the wedding night. I think this scene brings better closure to the family and parochial arcs in Elantris without directly pulling out QWERTY to remind everybody what we learned today.
And so what we have learned applies to our lives today, and God has a lot to say in His.
That's all I got on Elantris for the foreseeable future. I'm cracking open Way of Kings next, and we'll have videos coming on that in 2 weeks. In the meantime, stick around. I've got Harry Potter and more Full Metal Alchemist content until then. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to see more. Thank you. Your patronage is greatly appreciated.